How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, it's going to be a great discussion. It's going to be talking about making tough decisions. Guys, as you move up in your career, or even if you've been in the career a little bit longer, you know, this is definitely something that you want to do. You're going to wind up facing some tough decisions. And these tough decisions relate to your growth in the profession, but also connects to the sacrifices that you may have to make in order to continue your growth. Today, I'm going to have Connie Alleyne on, and we're going to talk about how to navigate through some of those tough decisions, guys, because, again, in corrections, for those that really get divided between the sacrifices they must make at home in order to pursue whatever they can in this career, whatever choices that they want to make, you know, these are choices that can have an impact on your life. So I'm hoping that me and Connie are able to give you some good advice here to help you navigate through those tough choices. And by the way, guys, my show is sponsored by 3 entities. We have American Military University. Guys, if you get a chance, please check out American Military University. It's a great online school, very supportive of what we do in corrections, also very supportive of what we do here on Tier Talk. And we also have Guardian RFID, from inmate tracking and cell checks to cloud-based business and artificial intelligence. Guardian RFID digitally transforms jails, prisons, and juvenile detention facilities of every size. Visit guardianrfid.com for more information. And guys, also check out their YouTube channel, because we have content we put up there as well. Content that gives you tips and advice, but they also have content to familiarize you with the equipment that they use. We also have Inmate Manipulation Decoded. That book is on the market. It's available on Amazon. Link to that in the description. And we also have now available Lessons Learned While Working in a Prison: My Journey from Officer to Administration. So if you're ready to take your correctional career up a notch, it's a great book to have. It's a hardcover book, 523 pages, and the link to that is also in the description. Okay, guys, so let's get Connie on. Connie, what's going on?
Good morning. Good morning. You know you owe me big time for this one.
Wait, let me just show you. Let me show you the text real quick in the morning, because this was random, guys. I had an idea. I wanted to run with it. So Connie's just waking up thinking that life is going to be normal. And, so this is the first text I send this morning. It says, "Good morning." Oh, no, that's yours. Hold on, because wait, I may not say good morning. I may just get right to it. Hold on. I was hoping, this is for me, I was hoping for a quickie. Keep your mind out of the gutter. I don't know if did you see that? I wrote that.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I didn't even address it just because of that.
Yeah, I kind of felt that the joke was left hanging, actually. No, I did. I kind of felt like, because when you say a joke and you're rolling the dice and you're hoping the person like, "Ooh, did I go too far with this one?" You know what I mean? So the longer that text goes on the air, I follow up with a phone call. "Hey, Connie, what's going on?" So yeah, you got to try to respond back to the jokes, because I'm taking risks. I'm going out of my comfort zone. You know what I mean? So, and then I say, I meant a show. I have an idea that I was hoping we can do today, if that works. Good morning. Okay, so she fucking regulates it right off the bat. That's Connie now, just like, good morning, like making sure I know it's a new day. You don't just tell me what to do in the morning. Heard. Just waking up. Okay. Let me know what time you were thinking. This is me. I have to leave my house by 10 a.m. to take my youngest to a birthday party. So how does any minute now work for you? And, you laugh, you go, okay, well, I need at least 15 minutes. And then, perfect, that works. And then she goes, I need my Saturday morning coffee. It's the only day I drink it, which, I don't know, a lot of information there. A lot of information. And then I come back strong. Because now this, me too, actually. It's the only time I tell my wife what to do and she listens. And then last email we ended on was simple, just email sent. That's a beautiful morning. What are you talking about?
Oh my God, yes, it's a beautiful morning. Thank you.
Yeah, and then guys, we had before the show started. I can't talk too much, but she has coffee. I actually had to have hot chocolate, and then this almost turned into a fucking medical Zoom dialogue. Connie was asking questions as to why I have to have hot chocolate, and it got very personal. Why I can't drink coffee. So that went from like getting ready to start the show to a medical Zoom. It's good to have a friend who understands medical.
Listen, you guys have to understand, this is my partner. I care about him. And if something's going on in his body, I'm okay saying, what the fuck's going on with you? Because we all know that men don't say what's wrong with them. They just fucking keep it to themselves. And then all of a sudden they're buckled over sick. And so I try to poke to see, is there something going on? And do I need to call Deanna? Because I will call her and let her know that you got some shit going on that you need to go.
Literally.
Yes.
Good choice of verbiage. Now everybody knows why I can't drink coffee, Connie. You violated my HIPAA. I feel so violated. All right, what was it? Making
we got a good topic this morning. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. And Connie, can you introduce yourself again to our audience?
Sure. I am Connie Alleyne. I'm the founder and president of the Civilian Corrections Academy. I'm also the author of The Cage Was Her Cocoon. It has definitely been a great journey, just really being able to hone in on both of those, really focus on the book and focusing on the academy. And now I'm here as a regular contributor to Tear Talk, and the journey has been real. I love it.
And kind of, I always like to ask you, how's the academy going? How's the book going?
The academy is going well. I was surprised by a meeting with Rikers Island. Like, I was like, wait a minute. Like, I was kind of just blindsided. The sales team, my sales team leader, she kind of just threw it on the schedule. And of course, I'm in between stuff. And so I go to jump on the call. I'm like, oh, shoot, like, wait a minute, what's happening here? We don't know yet whether or not that is a contract that we would be able to secure, but they seem very interested, and I'm really excited about that. So we are up to 26 proposals out there for the summer months alone. So it's definitely going in a good space, and it's exciting to be able to know that something I've created will be a part of someone's career for years to come. So it's exciting.
It's pretty cool. And again, guys, it's not about the result. It's about, you're going on a great journey.
Yeah.
You know, a great journey that hopefully doesn't end. You know, I really do. Hopefully it's longer than the Lord of the Rings trilogy extended edition. Because trying to get my wife to watch that. So we'll be midway, and your career still booming.
Listen, there's no place that I go that you don't go. So
together, well, we could be working on something soon together. Yeah. I wish
all
we could
of
announce
these discussions are also evolving into, well, would you mind also coming to the facility? Right. And so as those evolve, and I know that, you know, you and I have talked about different projects and the possibility of being able to go into facilities. Like, I think this is one of those avenues that the doors could open because we're already there in a different space. Mm-hmm. So as I go in to do training, I always talk about your books and also the ability to, I have access. I can bring him in here if you'd like.
I have to. I can't even, you just make the time and all right, that's what it is. Gotcha. I have no choice at this point.
Yep. It's like, hey, listen, so I got inmate manipulation going on over here, which is an even broader version of my module. And this is the expert that helped to give me the insights into the module. So absolutely, you have no idea how connected you are to the academy. But you are. And so wherever we go, you go.
Well, I'm honored to be connected to something so beautiful. And obviously, I mean, we did the mascot thing. We fed right off each other. I mean, we kind of figured out the topic in that moment, and nobody can do that, guys. You're not prepared. You go in, but that's 1,200 videos, and we just go right into what we do best. That's what we do. And we've created these aha moments. And for people that don't understand the power behind developmental discussions like we're doing, you guys don't understand how much that stays with you. It's not just memorizing tips, it's developing and growing with the dialogue. So for me, that's made me better at what I do. And then definitely for us together as a team, I would like to think that we're one of the top people when it comes to multiple roads in corrections. We can pretty much talk about almost anything at such a high level. I mean, that to me is what matters, you know. So love it. Now this is going to be fun. We narrowed it down to 5 tips. Hopefully we get to all 5 before my My daughter's got the birthday party. So again, it's about making tough career choices. So the first thing we talked about when me and Connie were developing the tips real quick was having a destination in mind, clarify your trajectory, and know your priorities. So if I may start off real quick, guys, you don't know where you are now if you don't know where you want to be. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times when you're going to start trying things. And to me, that's not going to be a difficult decision. I want to try different things. I want to grow. That's great. I mean, that's something I always tell people to do. But again, you're trying those things to find out where you fit best. It becomes tough when you start to realize that, wow, both these opportunities could have some value in where it is that I want to end up. So now the thing is what choice do I want to make? And that's when you really have to understand where you want to be, so clarify that trajectory. And when I talk about trajectory, I want people to know something. A big part of that trajectory is growth, because trust and believe, if you go into any position with a growth mindset, it does matter, because that means that I'm doing it for me, not for any other reason that could be taken away from me. I'm doing it for me. So it kind of helps solidify the path, and then knowing those priorities. And if I do this, how does this affect certain things in my life? So Connie, having a destination in mind, clarifying your trajectory, knowing your priorities, how important is that when you're evaluating a decision? Because, Connie, and you know, as you start to move up and you start to solidify what it is that you want, it's crazy, because even though you may know what you want, sometimes the choices that you have to make to get there can be very complicated to make.
Yeah, so I think this is all a matter of taking control of your destiny, right? Like, so where do I want to be? So if I know, for example, I want to be a commissioner, I need to go look at the job description of a commissioner, look at all the qualifications of that commissioner role, and do I meet the criteria, right? Because am I setting a realistic goal for myself to want to be the commissioner, but I haven't done 80% of the thing on the list, right? And so now that I know these are all the things I need to do, I need to start working towards those things, right? And however you get there, right? So say you need a degree. Okay, you know that I won't be able to apply for commissioner for at least 3 or 4 years, right? Like that might be sort of where your priorities would lie, because based on the requirements to get to my end destination, I now know here are a series of steps that I'm going to need to take in order to get there. And I think that's where the rubber meets the road, right? Because do I want to do the work to get to where I want to be? Am I willing to make the sacrifices to get to where I need to be? And ultimately, are they sacrifices? They may not be sacrifices. They're just steps I need to take. And they may be uncomfortable. They may push me out my comfort zone, but at least I know where I need to go and the how I need to get there.
And it's funny, Connie's an entrepreneur, because I'm thinking sergeant. She's thinking commissioner. She went right for fucking CEO. I'm just saying. I mean, holy crap. So now can I add something to that?
You got to dream big, right?
No, you're right. So let me add something to that just in case. So guys, it's not, what's funny? We talked about it right before we entered this episode. And it's not so much. I love the fact that we have a destination and we can reverse engineer down from that. That means that I know where I want to be, and when I make decisions, it's filtered down from that destination. But I want you guys to be mindful. When you shoot for that high destination, really enjoy the journey, because at the end of the day, it may not mean that you're successful if you meet that final destination. It could just mean that you were successful because you put yourself on the journey to meet that final destination. So for some people that may think, well, I'll never be a commissioner. Why shoot that high? Why not? Why not? Because if you're shooting that high, the journey along the way is still valuable. It's like, okay, well, I'll never reach the moon, but you made it past the clouds. I love that. I love the fact that Connie went high, and I love the fact that for people that may question, well, I'll never get there, it doesn't matter. You're still putting yourself on a trajectory where it could be a possibility. I mean, that's the key. Whether you make it or not, it's not about the result. Is I've done enough. And be honest with you, even if you don't make it later on, hypothetically, even if you don't make it later on, the funny thing is that you have no regret, because you put yourself on the right road to do it, and you just didn't assume that it couldn't happen. And I'll be honest with you.
To add to that, sometimes it's a matter of just positioning yourself to get there. right? So like now I know that's where I want to be. I may not have all the qualifications, but I continue to put myself in places and spaces where I could even be considered for it, right? Just because for to your point, the trajectory is, yeah, I might be shooting for the stars, but look at where I've allowed myself to go just to even have an opportunity to apply for that.
And look how you smiled when you said that, because I could picture you right now thinking about, everything that you've been doing. I mean, that smile came from the inside out, that not from the outside in. And guys, that's another thing. When you're looking for something to enjoy in this profession, look for the things that make you smile from the inside out. Don't look for the things that make you smile from the outside in. And guys, let's get to the next one, tip 2. Don't want to be late for a birthday party, but I want to get this out. Yeah, this is crazy.
Well, the last birthday party was an amazing opportunity, so you just never know.
You're right, because we're still working on something next week, so you never know who you're going to meet. This is a good one. Some may fall into each other, but there'll be a different perspective provided. I realized that also, guys. Side note: when I was writing the book, you may see in the book topics that kind of relate, but they're different perspectives. So each one is going to have a different view. And I think it matters. I think that's also the OCD in us, but I think it matters when you try to look at things more than once. So I may have discovered a thought now. It's like, well, let me come back and revisit that and make it a whole extra thought. So this one here is, don't be afraid to fail, prepare to adapt and adjust. So Connie jumped on this one, especially the part where prepare to adapt and adjust. So, let's talk about that a little bit, Connie. What was your thoughts on that?
So I think in that journey, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, right? And so you might hit or miss, right? Like, I think that's just a reality. And so just because you might fail at one particular thing doesn't mean that you are a failure. That one failure now means that is a lesson that you've learned that you could apply when you go and try this again, right? And I think that's the thing you want to be clear on, is that, like, yeah, this might not have worked, but now I'm more informed on what I shouldn't do in order to get there, which I think that's like the best part of the process, right? That, what, I might have failed, right? Like, I might have messed up. Or is it a mess up, right? Like, is it just a learning opportunity in the moment to help me to get to the next point in this journey? And then the adapt and adjust part is, you might be preparing to go into this new role, but maybe the skills and the tools that you had that you used previously are not going to work here, right? Like, maybe you need more soft skills now, because as you move up, like, I mean, we're in a people management business, but as you move up, it requires you to lead in a different way. And it requires you, because of the people you're going to be speaking with, it requires you to adjust the way you conduct yourself. And so you just have to be prepared to do that. Like, you can't go in thinking I'm gonna still act like whatever, because, I got tons of autonomy. You may still have the autonomy, but there is a certain level of scrutiny that you may have to deal with as you continue that trajectory.
I love that. And guys, I was reading James Clear's book. I think it's Bad Habits. Now, mind you guys, when you start reading a lot of these leadership stuff like that, you realize that sometimes people will use a quote, but all they did was reword it a little bit, because there's a thought that actually has been probably a little older, but then someone will come in and rephrase it a little bit. And sometimes you find, okay, that way, maybe that applies a little bit more to me, even though it doesn't break away from the original thought. I understand this. And he says, you do not rise to the levels of your goals. You fail to the levels of your system. And it kind of touches back on what we're saying. It really does talk about the journey, and it's okay to fail along the way. If you're just totally focused on the goal, a failure could be detrimental. But if you see failure as part of the journey in which you can grow the most, then failure is essential. So I mean, look at it that way, and it's accepting failure as being feedback. It is what it is. It happened. Now I know not to do that, and kind of like being the mad scientist. You know that this doesn't work, and you try again until you get the perfect formula. But again, and the adapt and adjust, which Connie had before, is true. I think that relates to the journey. You're going to have this trajectory in mind, but it's never going to be a simple route. It's going to have to require you to maneuver to best fit what it is that needs to be accomplished at that moment in time. You know, because be honest with you guys, even in today's world, when you're navigating a difficult choice, some people would ask you, what do you see? How do you see yourself in 5 years? The world's changing right now. You can't even ask yourself that question anymore. You know, it's true, because corrections alone has changed so much. So, I mean, how I see myself in 5 years may be irrelevant, you know, because here's the funny thing. I'm not, usually somebody would use that as an end result. Like, where do you want to be in 5 years, and reverse engineer down? That's if you have total control of every situation you're ever going to face. You're not going to have total control of that. I think the best bet is, I may want this position, but having said that, what are the systems I have to do daily to at least grow into that position? Because at any point, those things can change. So I would spend more time focusing on those daily systems in play. That's why I totally agree with that. You know, there was someone that mentions, like, on the new year, you know, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. And the people, they kind of focus on, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. It's like, well, you know, are you going to be able to do it? Or then you get someone that's going to, like, well, I have a system to lose 1 pound a week or 2 pounds a week or whatever it is. And it's like, well, that person that may have that system may be more successful. So again, you know, knowing, you know, the systems in play, what you put, that's what's going to make you successful. And during those systems, they're going to be failures, you know. And again, part of the adapting, adjusting is how you see those failures and adjust and keep moving, creating that momentum. Because the last thing you want to do is, while you're creating momentum, if you have a setback, to just stop. You cannot stop. So you have to keep moving. So again, I think that's great. Is if you're going to make a choice, don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. If that makes sense, you know, don't be afraid to fail. You know, a lot of the best choices, or most of the best choices, are based on risk. You know, without risk, there's no reward. So I think that was great. Now, Connie, you thought of this, and I noticed something when you answered question 2. You touched on uncertainty, but then you cut back because you knew that number 3 was know the key uncertainties when it comes to weighing that decision. Now, it's funny because I kind of took know and uncertainties as an oxymoron. You know, if that makes any sense, as two opposite extremes. So I kind of like how this verb, how the verbiage is, know the key uncertainties. So yeah, so how would that play in if you know, this is something that you want to go through?
Sure. So the same way we talked about, I think we might have mentioned already, you know, talking to people who've already done it, right? Like so you may see like sort of this pie in the sky, right? This is the thing I want to do. But if you never have a conversation with a commissioner, you never know what are the things that they didn't expect to happen that happened, right? And so when you don't ask the question, you don't gain the insights, right? So knowing the key uncertainties are kind of like, okay, so I know that if I take on this new role, there are going to be some changes in my life, right? You got to take the time to think about what are those changes that could possibly come into play, right? So for example, if you take, I don't know, say you want this role, but you've never worked third shift. And they say, if you take this role, you're going to need to work third shift, right, to get this role. And so now it's kind of like, well, what happens on third shift, right? You should probably start speaking to people on third shift so you can understand what are the things that happen on third shift. And is there a way that you could be prepared for the things that may happen on third shift? But also, now that you're moving to this shift, what are the things that I need to be considering that could happen, right? Because you're not going to always have all the information, right? So whether it's personal or professional, right? So third shift means I'm not home with my family at night. What impact does that have on my family? Those are things you're going to want to consider, right? Maybe it is, how do I stay awake during those hours? You know, are there things that I need to be preparing for, or things I need to be doing in order to sort of manage this thing? Because it hasn't happened yet. You're not sure it's going to happen, but you got to know, or at least consider, what are all of the things that could happen should I step into this space? And then you can kind of compare the things you think would happen by talking to someone who's in that space, to get confirmation, or to get, you know, some insights that you would not have if you hadn't had the conversation.
Yeah, and guys, I think that's where we had it in a show that we discussed recently. That's where you got to kind of weigh in the sacrifices. I mean, this actually crosses into number 4. So you know what? Let's do this. Let's. I think Connie completed know the key uncertainties because we're going to explore a little bit of that, and it kind of touches into number 4. So let me just bring in number 4. It's going to be avoid making a decision based on comfort, short versus long-term decision. All right, guys. So touching on this, guys, there's always going to be sacrifices behind every choice you're going to make, especially when you start looking to grow and opportunities become greater. I mean, it's crazy when you start to really elevate yourself in this career, the opportunities that you start to get. And these opportunities that you should have earned. And they're all good opportunities. You know, it's just a matter of where I want to be. It's not so much of it's like, yes, what would I enjoy in the moment? Yes, don't get me wrong. But what helps out that decision making is knowing that this is the best route for me to go because this is where I want to go. But mind you, guys, when you make those the choices, you can't let the comfort or the lack of a sacrifice or a good incentive that's external put value on something that could be superficial later on. So again, it's more of a short versus long-term decision. And I'll give you an example. I remember someone telling me when I'd already in the administrative position, someone said, well, I could have been on the administrative position. But having said that, I chose to stay in as an officer because at this point I've earned weekends off and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And I said, well, then not, with all due respect, then no, you couldn't have been in a leadership position then, if that's how you're looking at it, because having said that, that's part of being the leadership. It's part of it's making those sacrifices. So, you know, when sometimes someone will say, well, you know, I could have been a leader, but I chose my family. Well, what are you saying I did? You know, are you saying I didn't choose my family because I decided to move up? I mean, I get it. I mean, if you want to be more specific, that's great. You know, oh, I couldn't move up because, you know, my wife had this and okay, get it. 100%. Choose your family. Very specific. But when you say something generally like, oh, yeah, well, I could have moved up, but I chose to be with my family. It's like, okay, I get it, but that's insulting because you're making it look like that when I moved up, it was I could give two shits about my family. You know, what's funny is everything I've ever done is for my family. It's just maybe I'm more long-term. I'm thinking pension, more money, whatever it is, something that can help my family later on or whatever, you know, but to say that you didn't move up and generally speaking, you didn't do it because you want to spend more time with your family, you know, it's kind of unique to me because that's like saying that those that moved up could give two shits about their family. And I find that to be a very unfair statement. I find that maybe when it's generalized like that, there was comfort there that you choose not to kind of mess with. But then now for those that did, and we decided to move up, you know, because we, you know, decided, hey, you know what, I know I got weekends off now, but I got to move up. I got to grow because there's more there. I know I can go for more. There's a sacrifice there. So when people like to quickly say, well, I could do what you did, but I got weekends off. But okay, well, then you couldn't, because part of what my choices I made were the sacrifices of comfortability. That's why when you're making a choice, guys, I really want you to weigh this in. Make sure that when you make a decision, it's not based on comfort. Like, you know, oh, I could choose this right now, Gangi. This is the best choice because it's going to give me weekends off and it's going to give me an easy gig, or I could become a supervisor right now and not have to lose my weekends. Guys, those choices are not really connected. At the end of the day, if you're in to grow, this option of weekends off and comfortability shouldn't even be on the table, because later on, that's going to be a regret. You know what I mean? Kind of, that's going to be a regret because now that comfort winds up saying, well, that's what it was, that you could have seeked the highest position because it was in you. You wanted to grow, but you chose not to risk losing the weekends or the comfort of the post that you
don't want the higher position if you're seeking easy, right? Because that was something really, to me, that you just said that was profound, right? Like, so as we move into various roles that will require you to grow, easy is not a word associated with growth. Comfort is not a word that's associated with growth. All of it makes you uncomfortable. It all makes you uneasy because you don't know what's going to happen next, right? You might think like, oh, I'm doing this, this, and that, and everything's going to be great. But the reality is that when you position yourself to grow, there's nothing easy about it. And so maybe leadership is not for that person who is looking for easy, right? And I think that's something that as an individual, you have to hone in on. Like, okay, do I want easy or do I want growth? Right? Because the reality is that my growth will not be easy because I've got to adjust my mindset. That is not an easy thing, especially if you've been on a job for 15 years, right? This is how I do things. They say it takes almost 15 years to change a culture, right? So, how long is it going to take you to change the way you normally operate for the last 15 years? Right? It's going to be uncomfortable. It is not going to be easy. So, like, I feel like in the context of our conversation, as we're talking about making tough career decisions, understanding that as you decide, easy comes off the table, comfort comes off the table. I mean, I'm even thinking because you mentioned, sort of the external incentive, right? So is the money the thing that you want, right? And will it sustain this effort? Is it enough to motivate you to continue to do greatness in the space you're going to move into, right? Or is that something else that ultimately is going to make you comfortable and you're just not going to grow anymore?
Well, think about what you said too. It's great because think about the comparison of thought. So, this actually this is perfect. So here I am. I get a chance to grow, an opportunity. So 2 opportunities come my way. One could be a comfort opportunity, where I can get weekends off and an easy post, and the other could be that supervisory position. And how the person goes to decide it is like, I don't know, is becoming a supervisor worth that little extra pay to avoid all this? It's like, well, your mindset's wrong to begin with, because none of that's going to matter later on. What I would ask you is, what do you want, from this career? What is it that you think you could provide value back to this career, guys? So again, if you're motivated by, maybe something external, then that little raise is not going to be enough to, get you away from that comfort of having those weekends off and having that bid. But I've seen people that have gotten bored in their position because they want to grow, and this thing on the table doesn't even become an option because they're not looking at the supervisory position with an external incentive of money. They're looking at it as, I have to do that, Gangi, because if I want to learn what this profession is about, if I want to learn more about it, I have to go that route. And they're the ones that, the funny thing is if they find themselves to be in a comfortable position, they want out. They want out. But having said that, I think the big part of this discussion is when you're making a critical decision and in the back of your mind that you want to grow. I know this is what I want to do. I know that I want to grow. Be wary of the choices that you make that can make you comfortable, because that's going to make it harder for you to leave out of it. So be careful of those weekend off, cozy positions. For me, and more of me driven internally, comfort was only temporary. Discomfort was usually permanent. You know what I mean? So, I mean, just say the way I think of it. Like, yeah, I have it nice, but I don't expect it to last. And you have to have that mindset, because the moment you get too comfortable, it's okay, I got to find something else. I don't, because if I don't keep myself moving, I'm going to want to stay here. And again, that's for people that have a growth mindset. For those that are in this job looking for, that easy road, I get it. If you happen to find one and, hey, yes, I'm lucky, I did it, this was the end result, and I'm good with that. That's you. That's fine. I'm not minimizing that. But for those that are looking to grow and are going to be facing those difficult choices, mind you, guys, be careful of putting yourself in positions where you get yourself to be too comfortable, because you're going to wind up making decisions that have nothing to do with growth, just more of, I became too comfortable. And I tell you something, guys, I've seen it. I've seen people get to the end of their career thinking, shit, I could have did more. However, whatever motivates that, I don't know, but they always said I could have done more. And what happens is that weekends off, the comfortable wasn't enough for them to eventually sacrifice the growth they could have had. And I love how when they see someone in a higher position, just to reiterate, they go back and say, man, I could have did what you could have done. No, you couldn't, because you didn't. You know what I mean? How simple is that? No,
Yeah.
you couldn't because you didn't, you know? And
And
again,
then also, I think on this journey, you have to be mindful who's in your ear, right? Like, who are you allowing to influence you during this time of making a hard
Connie,
decision?
that crosses into number 5. You want to start that off because that crosses exactly into number 5.
Yeah, like, I mean, so yeah, you want to talk to people who've already dealt with similar situations, but you want to make sure those folks are in the space that you're in. Like, they are folks who are of a growth mindset, right? Because it made me, while I was I was thinking about it as you were talking, that, you know, when I was faced with this opportunity to go from discharge planner to health services manager, a few of my peers at the time were like, oh, you shouldn't do that. You know, you should stick with us because, you know, we're in the union. You're going to lose this and this and that. And, you know, the union wants you to come work with them for full time. And this is just another revenue stream. There was all these things, right? And so I knew for me, though, that I did want to grow in the profession. And so if I stuck with the union, I wouldn't be able to do that, right? And it would limit me to only working in this union space as opposed to being able to grow, right? Like, I never wanted to, I didn't aspire to be like a union president or anything like that. That wasn't ever something in my mind that I wanted to do. So if in fact I listened to all the pros and cons of my peers who were already limited in their perspective, I could have been stuck in a space that I didn't want to be in, right? And so yes, it was one thing to kind of hear those perspectives because it allows me to broaden my lens. It allows me to see it from other angles. Maybe I didn't recognize whatever the benefits were to stay in that role and to not be promoted. But on the other side, I was like, well, I don't want to be on the front line forever, right? Like, I don't want to go into the mental observation every day, having to deal with these inmates who are acting all crazy in there, and then not necessarily be supported by policy to make certain decisions, right? Like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to be able to influence the policy. I wanted to, like, I saw sort of the bigger picture for me was, how do you make change, right? And it's not being on the front line, just kind of complaining. It's positioning yourself to be in a space, to be in the room, to influence the decisions that are going to drive policy change. But I feel like that's kind of the thing, that you've got to know who's in your ear and why they're in your ear, you know, especially if you didn't go seek them out, right? Because what I started to do was seek out other managers to kind of say, oh, you like this? You know, what are some of the things that are so hard about it? You know, and little did I know how hard it would be, you know, managing mentally ill inmates and coordinating care. Like, I'm like, who signed me up for this right here? Because it was very difficult. And then just all the moving parts and bureaucracy and all of that associated with Rikers Island. But I feel like that's the where the rubber meets the road. That it's great if you have a mentor, someone you can trust, someone who you can talk to about this sort of desire you have to move up. But then just be careful about who else is in your ear, who may not see, one, your value, who may not see the value in the work that they're doing, so they're already jaded, and who maybe just don't want to see you grow, right?
Well, yeah, you're right. And I think that once you understand where you're going, once you have all these things in play, you know the trajectory, you know your priorities, you know what advice applies and what advice doesn't. You know, I think a lot of that is partly on how you filter your relationships. You know, if you go in not knowing where you want to be, truly not understanding where you are in the moment, then yes, you know, anybody's advice can take you off course because you have no idea where the hell you're at, you know, or where you want to be. So I
I
think
love that though, filtering your relationships. That's awesome.
oh, thanks. I just saw a Gangi T-shirt. You know, but it's true. You know, I think that if you know what it is that you're looking for, then that will connect you to the right people. So technically, to be honest with you, it's finding the right people is never passive. It's totally intentional. You know, it's intentional based on the needs. Now, if you just start allowing people into your life and it becomes passive, that's mostly because you have no idea where you want to be. So granted, I would be intentional with that because you know exactly where you want to be and connect to the people that can help you grow. And trust and believe, they're easier to find when you know what it is you want because they become the dialogue that's the most engaging because it's about you. Hey, Connie, you have any thoughts you'd like to say in closing?
In closing, I would just like to say it is always going to be tough deciding which direction to go with your career. I think at the end of the day, you have to weigh out the pros and cons in every possible scenario that you can think of. And just know that there's some things that you haven't thought of yet, right? And so I think the filling in the gap of those things you haven't thought of yet may come directly from others who are in that space. So don't hesitate to reach out to other folks just to ask a question. Not that you want to take their job or anything like that, but you just want to gain as much information as you can to make the best decision for yourself and your family.
Yeah, and guys, this is, again, just to help you navigate the tough choices. As you start to move up in your career, choices don't become simple because opportunities are great, you know, so it's good to kind of know how to navigate through some of those tough choices. And I just got emailed by Amazon. I got a review on my book because remember, guys, not a lot of people have the book yet because it takes 3 weeks to make. But if I could just read the review, it's a quick one. It just says, it's worth the investment into my life and career. It just says one customer. But it goes, lessons learned while working in prison. My journey from officer to administration is a wise and caring guide for my career in corrections. It's helping me to navigate through a field that's isolating and negative, yet fulfilling. Anthony Gangi writes from his heart and experiences in this groundbreaking and necessary book. I'm glad that I stepped out in faith and purchased it. It's full of nuggets that have universal application. I would recommend it. This timeless book. It's making a difference in my career and personal life. Take care. It's kind of what we do with the show, Connie. It connects what we do.
Awesome.
You know, it's not just for corrections. That's kind of a great way to start my
That's awesome.
to start my Saturday. So yeah. And of course, number one is seeing you, Connie. You know what? Thank you for the quickie. As always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. The bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe, everyone.